Most people think silence is weakness. That's because most people have never witnessed real power. Real power don't announce itself. Real power don't explain itself. Real power don't stand in the middle of the street begging strangers to recognize it. The ocean never argues with a puddle. The mountain never debates the hill, and yet human beings spend half their lives explaining themselves to people who have already made up their minds. Think about that. The same mouth that speaks your dreams can bury them. The same mouth that speaks your vision can expose it to people who secretly pray for its death. The same mouth that reveals your wounds can hand ammunition to the very people waiting for war. That's why wisdom and silence have always slept in the same bed. Because wisdom understands something ego never will. Information is currency. Every time you open your mouth, you're spending something. Sometimes it's dignity. Sometimes it's leverage. Sometimes it's mystery. Sometimes it's your future. And the tragedy is, most people don't know they've gone bankrupt until years later. They tell everybody what they're building, then wonder why the foundation keeps cracking. They tell everybody what they're healing from, then wonder why old wounds keep getting reopened. They tell everybody what they're becoming, then wonder why the room suddenly gets colder. Because not everybody listening is listening with clean hands. Some people listen like grave robbers. They don't hear your story. They hear opportunity. They hear vulnerability. They hear access. They hear weakness. And the moment you leave, they begin dissecting what you revealed, turning your honesty into entertainment, your transparency into gossip, your pain into a performance they can share with people who were never invited into the room. That's why silence is sacred. Not because silence hides, because silence protects. A seed spends months underground before anybody sees a flower. A diamond spends centuries hidden before anybody calls it valuable. Gold stays buried. Oil stays buried. Every valuable thing on earth understands concealment, except people. People reveal everything too early and then spend years trying to recover what should have never left their mouth in the first place. The older I get, the more I realize this. Not every thought deserves a microphone. Not every emotion deserves an audience. Not every wound deserves a witness. And not every person deserves access to the private architecture of your soul. Because some doors were never meant to be left open. Some rooms were never meant to be public. And some truths become weaker the moment they're spoken in the wrong company. That's the first lesson. Silence is not the absence of power. Silence is power refusing to perform. The moment you stop needing to be understood, your life changes, not a little, not gradually, violently, because most suffering ain't coming from what happened. It's coming from the exhausting addiction to explaining what happened. Read that again. Most people don't have a pain problem. They have an audience problem. They keep dragging their wounds into rooms full of spectators, hoping somebody will finally hand them understanding. But understanding ain't something you can negotiate. You either possess the capacity for it or you don't. And that's the tragedy. Some people spend 20 years explaining themselves to people who lack the emotional equipment to understand them from the very beginning. Ain't that hell? To keep offering paragraphs to people committed to a misunderstanding. To keep presenting evidence to a jury that already voted. To keep translating your heart into languages nobody in the room speaks. And every explanation feels reasonable at first. You think, if I just say it differently, if I just explain it better, if I just tell the whole story, if they knew what I've been through, no, they wouldn't. Because understanding isn't an information problem. It's a character problem. Some people don't misunderstand you because they lack facts. They misunderstand you because the truth threatens the version of reality they built to protect themselves, and that's when explaining becomes self-harm. Lord, realize that explanations are often emotional bribes. We keep offering more and more pieces of ourselves, hoping somebody will finally validate our existence. Here, take this childhood story. Take this trauma, take this reason, take this context, take this wound, take this proof, take this memory, take this piece of me, and before you know it, you've given away your entire interior for a receipt nobody was ever going to sign. That's why some conversations leave you feeling robbed, because they were robberies. Not discussions, not dialogue, not connection, extraction. And some people are master extractors. They know exactly how to keep you talking, exactly how to keep you defending, exactly how to keep you explaining, because every explanation gives them more material, more leverage, more access, more fingerprints on your spirit. The manipulator's favorite sound is your need to be understood. Because as long as you keep explaining, you remain emotionally hooked, emotionally invested, emotionally available, still trying, still reaching, still hoping, still standing at a door that got locked years ago. Now, let's tell the truth. Most explanations aren't for them. They're for us. We're trying to rescue ourselves from rejection, trying to rescue ourselves from judgment, trying to rescue ourselves from being seen incorrectly. But here's the lesson nobody wants to hear. You cannot control another person's interpretation of you. You can only control your proximity to it. That's it. Some people will call you selfish for having boundaries. Some people will call you cold for choosing peace. Some people will call you arrogant for refusing access. Some people will call you difficult because they lost control. And no amount of explanation will change it. None. Some people need your silence to sound guilty. Some people need your confidence to sound arrogant. Some people need your growth to sound fake, because if they told the truth about you, they'd have to tell the truth about themselves, and that's a bill they can't afford. So let them misunderstand, let them guess, let them invent, let them rewrite, let them gossip, let them create entire fictional universes if they need to. Because peace begins the moment you stop auditioning for the role of properly understood. And maturity, real maturity, it's realizing that some people don't deserve another explanation. They deserve your absence. Because there comes a point in life where every additional sentence becomes a betrayal of your own self-respect. And sometimes the most powerful thing you'll ever say is absolutely nothing at all. The wolf don't find the sheep. The sheep announce itself. That's a hard truth. Most predators don't possess some supernatural ability to find weakness. They simply wait, watch, listen, and eventually somebody volunteers the location of every unlocked door. See, the dangerous people in this world don't study your face. They study your mouth, because your mouth will tell them what your posture never will. Your mouth will reveal what keeps you awake, what you're afraid of losing, what you're desperate to prove, what you're still bleeding from, what validation you'll sell pieces of your soul to receive. And once they know that, the hunt begins. A fisherman don't chase fish. He learns the bait. A hunter don't negotiate with the deer. He learns the trail. A manipulator don't attack your strength. They study your hunger, because hunger always talks. Loneliness talks, insecurity talks, unhealed wounds talk. The need to be chosen talks. The need to be loved talks. The need to be understood talks. And every unnecessary word leaves footprints. Every confession leaves fingerprints. Every over-explanation leaves breadcrumbs. And some people got a gift for following trails. That's why the predator's first weapon ain't charm. It's curiosity, the wrong kind. Not curiosity to know you, curiosity to map you, to survey the terrain, to locate emotional fault lines, to discover where abandonment still echoes, where rejection still lives, where shame still sleeps, and they'll smile while they do it, nod while they do it, comfort you while they do it, because extraction works best when it feels like connection. Extraction works best when it feels like connection. That's why some people leave conversations feeling lighter, while you leave feeling exposed, because one person was gathering information, the other person was giving it away. Some people don't enter your life as people. They enter as reconnaissance missions. Quiet, patient, calculating, learning everything they need to know before they ever make a move. And the tragedy, most people help them. Most people tell them exactly where the fractures are, exactly where the grief lives, exactly where the self-worth goes blind, exactly where the boundaries collapse, and then act shocked when somebody walks right through the opening. Silence is what interrupts the hunt. Silence forces people to reveal themselves first. Silence changes the power dynamic, because information travels one direction. The moment you start talking, you're giving it away. The moment you stop, you start collecting. That's why the wisest people often appear mysterious. Not because they're hiding, because they're observing, watching patterns, watching inconsistencies, watching words fail to match behavior, watching people accidentally expose themselves through repetition. 'Cause here's the truth. Nobody likes. Most people tell on themselves, not once, repeatedly. The liar tells the same lie too many different ways. The narcissist eventually reveals their need for worship. The manipulator eventually reveals their obsession with control. The fraud eventually becomes exhausted from performing. All of them leak. All of them crack. All of them reveal. If you shut your trap long enough to witness it. And that's where most people fail. They interrupt the revelation. They rush to explain, rush to defend, rush to react, rush to fill the silence, not realizing silence was about to hand them the truth. Lord, the most expensive mistakes of my life weren't caused by what I didn't know. They were caused by what I revealed too early. The business plan, the dream, the wound, the fear, the insecurity, the hope, the thing still fragile enough to die from the wrong conversation. And once it's spoken, it can never be unspoken. That's why every room doesn't deserve your honesty. Every smile doesn't deserve your story. Every question doesn't deserve your answer. Every listener doesn't deserve your trust, because predators don't fear your silence. Predators fear your discernment. They fear the day you stop volunteering access, the day you stop narrating your interior, the day you realize that mystery isn't manipulation, it's protection. And some of the strongest walls you'll ever build won't be made of stone. They'll be made of things you chose not to say. Not because they're evil, because they can only see through the lens of who they are. And that's why overexposure is so dangerous. You don't just expose your dream, you expose it to other people's limitations, other people's disbelief, other people's unresolved failures, other people's unfinished wars, and slowly, without realizing it, you start seeing your future through their eyes. A vision that once felt limitless suddenly feels impossible. A dream that once felt alive starts looking ridiculous. A calling that once felt sacred starts sounding unrealistic. And now something beautiful is dying. Not because it wasn't real, because it was discussed in the wrong environment. Green fruit don't belong in a storm. Fresh concrete don't belong under heavy traffic. Open wounds don't belong in dirty hands. And unfinished transformation don't belong in public. Some of y'all told everybody you were healing. Now you're performing healing instead of experiencing it. Some of y'all announced growth before growth had the chance to become character. Some of y'all shared the blueprint before the house got built. And now you're trapped, not by failure, by expectation, by perception, by having to maintain an image of progress that never got the chance to mature naturally. The most powerful transformations happen quietly. A caterpillar don't hold press conferences. A tree don't announce every new root. The ocean don't notify anybody before changing the shoreline. Real transformation is private, sacred, invisible at first, and that's what people miss. The invisible season, the hidden season, the underground season, the season where God, life, pain, wisdom, experience, and time are building something nobody else can see. That's the season people keep interrupting, keep exposing, keep narrating, keep handing over to audiences who haven't earned access, and then they wonder why the thing never fully blooms. Some of the greatest things that ever happened to me were protected by silence. The relationship, the healing, the opportunity, the lesson, the revelation, the transformation, the parts of me that needed room to become without spectators, without opinions, without commentary, without witnesses. Because not everything beautiful needs an audience. Some things need incubation, and some things die the moment they become public too soon. That's the tragedy. Not every grave contains something that failed. Some graves contain things that were spoken about before they were strong enough to survive being seen. Maturity is not learning what to say. Maturity is learning what deserves to die inside your mouth. That's the lesson nobody teaches, because everybody celebrates expression. Nobody celebrates restraint. Everybody applauds the clapback. Nobody applauds the discipline it took not to deliver it. But some of the most life-changing victories you'll ever experience will happen in conversations that never happened, in messages you never sent, in arguments you refused to attend, in explanations you buried before they ever reached daylight. Because eventually, you realize something terrifying. Not every truth needs a witness. Some truths only need acceptance. See, Most people think closure is a conversation. It's not. Closure is a decision. A conversation requires participation. A decision only requires you. That's why so many people stay trapped. They're waiting for a discussion that was never coming, waiting for accountability from people who profit from denial, waiting for honesty from people who survive on deception, waiting for understanding from people committed to confusion, waiting for an apology from people who don't believe they did anything wrong. Years pass. Entire decades pass. And they remain emotionally handcuffed to a conversation that exists only in their imagination. The perfect speech, the perfect explanation, the perfect confrontation, the perfect final sentence. But life doesn't work like that. Sometimes the chapter ends without the meeting, without the apology, without the confession, without the justice, without the satisfaction. And that is where wisdom enters the room. Because wisdom understands that peace and understanding are not the same thing. You can understand everything and still have no peace. You can know exactly why they did it and still be bleeding. You can gather every answer and still remain stagnant. Peace begins when the questions lose their authority. Peace begins when the explanation loses its urgency. Peace begins when you stop demanding that reality provide emotional refunds. That's the trap. People keep returning to old fires looking for warmth. Keep returning to old wounds looking for healing. Keep returning to old people looking for new behavior. Keep returning to old betrayals looking for honesty, as if the same hands that broke something were always meant to repair it. Some doors close because they should. Some relationships end because they must. Some conversations never happen because silence is the answer. And the older you get, the more you discover that life is not asking you to understand everything. Life is asking you to release it. That's much harder. Understanding still gives the ego something to hold. Release requires empty hands. Release requires surrender. Release requires accepting that some things will never make sense, that some people will never tell the truth, that some betrayals will never be explained, that some endings arrive without ceremony, and still you keep walking. Not because you're healed, not because you're unaffected, not because you're above the pain, because you finally learned that carrying it serves no purpose. The strongest people are not the people who always get the last word. They're the people who no longer need it. The people who stopped arguing with reality, stopped negotiating with the past, stopped defending themselves to strangers, stopped explaining themselves to people who never cared, stopped performing for audiences that were never buying tickets. They became free. And freedom has a sound. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's not triumphant. It sounds like the sentence you never sent, the phone call you never made, the argument you never accepted, the explanation you never offered, the defense you never delivered, the final word you finally realized was never worth your peace. Because in the end, the most powerful thing you'll ever say may be the thing you choose to leave unsaid. Before you go, I want you to remember something. You didn't find this message by accident. Something in you is waking up. Something in you is questioning old patterns, old wounds, old stories, and old versions of yourself. And that's where transformation begins. Not when life gets easier. Not when all the answers show up. But the moment you decide you're no longer willing to betray yourself just to stay comfortable. This movement was created for people who are ready for more. More truth, more healing, more growth, more alignment, more purpose, more courage. If something in this message spoke directly to your spirit, then I want you to become part of this community. Connect with me on Instagram right here on the screen. Join the conversation. Share your journey. Grow with us. Because nobody was meant to walk this path alone. And starting July 1st, we will be actively giving back to mothers in need, where we stop settling for survival and start embracing what we're truly capable of. So don't miss what's coming. And if you're ready to go deeper, visit my website shown here on the screen. You'll find resources created to help you continue your journey. Ebooks, audiobooks, merchandise, tools designed to challenge your thinking, strengthen your mindset, and help you become the highest version of yourself. Because transformation isn't a moment, it's a practice. It's a decision you make over and over again, every day. So keep growing, keep healing, keep questioning, keep becoming, and remember, the life you're praying for may be waiting on the version of you that's brave enough to answer the call.